Hello and welcome everyone to the Indycar Addicted podcast. We are a new podcast for the Indycar Addicted Facebook page, something we just wanted to put together and make it into a sort of page-oriented podcast and hopefully get a good discussion on the news, the races, everything going on, possible topics that could be good discussions for the future of IndyCar. And before we get started, we wanted to introduce ourselves. I am Brenan Conroy. I'm from Lawrence, Kansas. I'm a huge IndyCar fan primarily, also for Formula One and NASCAR. And yeah, I think I'm a very good person to talk racing with. And that is why my co-host has decided to co-host with me. Thomas?
Indeed I have. I'm the one and only Thomas Hughes from... I currently reside in Palm Coast, Florida. I've been a racing fan since I was 7 years old, primarily NASCAR. The first IndyCar Series race I saw was in 2001, and that was the 2001 Indianapolis 500, a race I'll never forget. And I love racing, passionate about racing, and that is why I'm here with Brenan on this podcast today, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, that's absolutely perfect, Thomas. We're both racing fans, and we can perfectly talk racing.
You betcha we can.
Yes. So as we get into it, let's get talking about some of the racing news for the past few days.
All right.
Top of the list was today the official announcement. It had been guessed at initially, but one of the top stories for today was Stefan Wilson officially announcing the entry with KV Racing.
Very sentimental, and I'm really happy for the kid.
I'm happy, too, because he never really got his fair share in IndyCar, I thought, before. He only had one or two races he was running in, and he did decently, as far as I remembered.
Yeah, he was all right. I mean, I'm not looking at his official stats in front of me, but he was still, I mean, nowhere near he's not the driver. His brother was, God rest his soul, but still, I'm really happy that he's getting this chance to run the 500. It's going to be great.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, his best results in the forbearing was he finished third in Indy Lights in 2011, and he only had one start, I should say, in IndyCar itself. 2013, got a start with Dale Coyne, finished 16th at Baltimore. So this is going to be a better shot, I think, for him, especially with the Chevrolet package in comparison to what Honda maybe looks forward to this Indianapolis 500. So yeah,
absolutely.
So hopefully he gets a good set to go with, and this can be a great opportunity for him to go with.
All I was going to say was that this gives Stefan an opportunity to really prove himself. You know, come into his own with IndyCar, and on Indianapolis on the 500 miles, he'll make the best of it. And this will be an experience that he'll never forget, and hopefully it'll be one that the fans will remember for.
Oh, definitely. I agree with that as well. The other sort of piece of news is that with another entrant that we had, there will officially be bumping at the Indy 500 because the other driver who was announced almost a bit quietly, because I didn't hear about it until yesterday, but it was announced 2 days ago that Oriol Servia is getting a drive with Schmidt-Peterson.
That is fantastic news. Oriol Servia is a great driver, underrated. I mean, he's not as well known because he hasn't been given Go ahead.
He hasn't been given really a good shot since his Newman Haas kart ride, and it's
then they closed the doors, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He hasn't had the shot. And now this is his one shot to really get back into it and make a name for himself.
Right. It is something that is always looked towards, I think, really well, that generally when a driver is needed, he's almost always the first one to be called. It's something I think that speaks a lot that he doesn't necessarily have sponsorship, but almost every team respects him as a driver.
Absolutely.
So that's something I think great going forward with. And then the other piece of news that I wanted to cover, it happened a few days ago, but I looked at it and thought was really interesting, was that the future forward,
No, it's all right.
Jonathan Bird. Sorry. Jonathan Bird.
Oh, yeah, Jonathan Bird Racing. Go ahead.
Yeah, they put out an announcement that for drivers of the USAC National Series and the Western Series, there are 7 races laid out for those. And for drivers who win all of those, there will be racing prizes associated with Jonathan Bird Racing in Indy and Indy Lights. I think it's if you win 5 of the races, you get a funded ride in the Freedom 100 in Indy Lights. If you win 6 of them, you get a funded ride in all 3 of the ovals in Indy Lights. So I think that's Phoenix, Iowa, and Indianapolis. And then if you somehow manage to be uber dominant and win all 7 races, you get a funded ride in not only the 3 Indy Lights races, but also for the Indianapolis 500 as a second car.
That is fantastic.
That's a really great way, I think, to help promote dirt racing among IndyCar, because it used to
Absolutely.
Because it used to be sprint car racing was a really big driver for IndyCar, for IndyCar series, because that's how Tony Stewart came up, and that's almost how Jeff Gordon came up into.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's why when Tony George started the Indy Racing League, that he wanted the USAC feed into it to help those drivers get back to the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, which I thought was a great idea. It's probably a good idea that USAC isn't directly involved with it, I might say, because of some things that might have happened in the past. But
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you look at the falling out between USAC and the league itself, and all all goes to you get my point.
Yeah, I definitely get your point, but I'm glad that there is a new way for dirt racing drivers to maybe have a shot of getting noticed in the series.
Yes.
So now sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one last bit of news. We're officially a go for Boston.
That was the one piece I wasn't going to cover, but is definitely important.
Oh, really?
I had forgotten about that, but yes, we are officially a go. From what it sounds like, everything's perfect. The CEO's looking like it's going forward. Everything is supposedly been signed with the state and the mayor of Boston.
Yep.
So hopefully that's a good sign.
I mean, I read that. I saw that news article saying Boston Grand Prix in jeopardy, and I look at the news article. I read it, and then they said then climate change rules that requires to get a wetlands permit. I'm just looking like, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, that's definitely a thing that's going to be a roadblock for most street races. Is in certain areas there's going to be rules and regulations that opponents to the races are going to try and bring up. We see this in another series. We see this a lot with the Battersea Park races with Formula E. So it's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's good that we get new races, and in a personal thing, it's kind of nice that they get their little victories over the people who hate it so much.
Yes. Yep. I'm really curious. I mean, I've got a strong opinion on street circuits, which we'll get into on another show.
We will.
But I'm excited to see how IndyCar does at the Seaport District on Labor Day.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully more Alabama than New Orleans.
Absolutely. More Baltimore than New Orleans, because that was a good race, regardless of what Baltimore thought of it.
Oh yeah, Baltimore was fantastic. So one of the first things we wanted to get to, and will generally be one of the first tour things we'll be talking about on the podcast for us, is the previous races that had happened since we last do a podcast. We're generally going to try and do a podcast the Monday or Tuesday after a race. We've got a few races under our belt already. We can try and go briefly over the ones that have happened. So first on the menu is our opener, St. Pete. I did not get to watch much of St. Pete because I was out of town. So, Thomas, what did you see from St. Pete? Well, St. Pete was a fun race. Great way to kick off the 2016 season. Poor people. I've been reading on the Facebook IndyCar groups that people were complaining about ABC's coverage of IndyCar, which to me is kind of surprising, but that's neither here nor there. Poor Alan Bestwick. I don't think there's been a race where ABC's coverage has not been maligned in some way. Like, they've tended to not be the most liked cover of motorsports, especially in the last few years?
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not like it's more. How do I say it? More sturdy or more level, but it's not to a point where they're just like out of heck with it. I mean,
Right.
they actually put on great coverage. Their new scoring ticker, position ticker. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
their new position ticker this year shows that they're really putting an effort with their IndyCar graphics and.
Well, that's good.
And poor Alan Bestwick. Bestwick had a sore throat. When he was covering when he was doing lap by lap. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. Well, one of the reasons ABC tends to be maligned is they don't like to promote the other races, which is definitely something I can understand both ways. But yeah.
Well, even then, like ABC, like they'll even say say during the St. Petersburg race, the Phoenix Grand Prix will be Saturday, April 2nd on
NBC
from Phoenix on NBC Sports. Like they'll show the NBC Sports logo. I mean, it's better than saying Phoenix Grand Prix is April 2nd. Check your local listings like they would back in the day.
Very true. Very, very
yep.
true. And although we've been stuck on coverage, we should probably talk a little bit about the race itself.
Yes. No, it's all cool. I mean, the race was really good. I mean, Juan Montoya. Let me backtrack a second. It was good. It was just a great quick pace race back and forth. It looked like Connor Daly was gonna pull a Graham Rahal in 2008 and win the race, but unfortunately that didn't work out.
Yeah, I
will say
that is the one bit I remember hearing is that Daly had a bit of help from behind, and that didn't exactly work out for him.
And then talking about ABC's coverage, I mentioned Alan Bestwick got a sore throat, but
yeah,
there at the I don't know what lap number it was, but it was the lap where Graham Rahal got in his accident. And caused that major traffic jam going into 4. And Eddie Cheever gave one of probably the best.
Oh.
I'm laughing as I say it because no, it was perfect. It was so perfect. Like everyone was calm during this wreck. And the field stopped and Eddie Cheever just says, "Morning rush hour, what a view." Best color commentary line I've heard so far this year from any sporting event.
Best color commentary line for someone whose color commentary generally isn't very colorful, but a very, very, very funny line.
Absolutely. And then of course, get down to the end of it. Juan Montoya goes on to win the race, and that just it really sets the standard for the man who should have won, who should have won, and rightfully. And the whole world knows that he won the championship last year, but that's neither here nor there.
I would get into it with you on that one, but that could be another discussion topic for us for a future.
Absolutely, yeah. I got a good one for that.
Yeah.
So remember that.
Yeah. Next on the list is Phoenix, which was our first oval and our return to Phoenix for the first time since I think it's been 13 years or so.
2005 was the last IndyCar trip to Phoenix.
So that would have been 11 years. Still a nice.
Yep, that's right.
Still a nice long time. The main thing I had down on this list for that one was Honda. That is where we started looking at Honda and going, how's this gonna go?
Yeah.
Because there were 2 Hondas in the top 10, Graham Rahal in 5th and Ryan Hunter-Reay in 10th. That's not a very good look for a manufacturer.
No, absolutely.
When you have 2 cars in the top 10, one of them is a single car team that's kind of become your best driver, and the second is the top driver for a multi-car, very normally strong team who they're starting to have their issues. I mean, Andretti Autosport has only had 1 podium so far this year.
Yeah, that's a weird.
It's weird to look at Andretti and not automatically consider them championship top tier.
And I'm not looking at their current Honda contract in front of me, but like it makes you wonder, will they? I mean, because they were in Honda, then they went to Chevrolet for a one-off, and then they went back to Honda. So and they're I don't know if they're living and breathing the manufacturer, but it's like you look at it's like Ford in NASCAR,
Oh yeah,
with
because
like they.
with
Go ahead. I'm
Roush.
sorry.
Oh, with going off with what you said, with Roush obviously being kind of tied at the hip with Ford, and then Penske also looking at it, maybe reconsidering their Ford deal, though maybe not with how Stewart-Haas is going on with Ford.
Yeah, because Stewart-Haas truly put Ford back on the map for their NASCAR program, because they put that major team, get them back into championship, into hopefully championship form, because in NASCAR they haven't won the manufacturer's title since 2002. But anyway, yeah, that's why I bring up Ford, because Honda, I mean, they were once a powerhouse, and then Chevy comes in, and it really takes you back to true manufacturer battle.
Yeah.
In all forms, in all the forms of motorsport have run over the years.
Right, and Honda maybe had been looking at it initially as, oh, we have so much experience in this. We'll just keep our racing division maybe the same as it has been, because they expected the reliability of their power plants to maybe overlord over the newcoming Chevy, and hope that would help them out. But Chevy came out really aggressive on power with the engine, and it's definitely helped them out so far.
That's right. Honda should have never taken Chevrolet for granted.
Oh, definitely not. The other thing I wanted to cover from Phoenix was a lot of people had some trouble with tires at Phoenix.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, especially with Helio, because I said, because Helio had the best weekend going into the night's race. He broke Arline Dyke's track record from '96, and I kept saying he's gonna dominate tonight's race. It's gonna be a great night for Helio. He still came back and finished ninth, but what happened?
That was a really weird tire pop. I didn't expect to see that coming, and maybe it's something for IndyCar to look forward to, because IndyCar, as much as a lot of people, myself included, malign NASCAR for their eagerness to throw a caution for debris on the track, maybe it's something that IndyCar should start looking forward to, especially when we see results like that happen, most likely because of debris from a cut tire from debris.
Exactly, and that's a good lead into the finish of that race, and how controversial that was.
Definitely, yeah.
How do you the debris was right there, and then you just throw the yellow, robbing the fans of that green flag finish. Though, I don't think that's right.
I think it makes sense why they threw the debris, because the car, as far as I remember, it was right in the middle of the track.
Well, yeah, but and we'll get into Barber in a few minutes, but because there was a big chunk of debris on the track there, and for several laps they ended up not throwing the yellow. But why do it there and not do it why do it at Phoenix and not do it at a place like Barber? The point, it makes you really think, and I've got a strong opinion on this, is that I think that IndyCar should really start looking at at bringing in green white checkered finishes for situations like that. It's only right, and it's fair for the fans. Let's
save that discussion for our main topic, because that probably is going to leak into our main topic. A lot of discussions like that. So let's go to Long Beach. Probably even though we had just finished discussing the controversial finish in Phoenix, probably so far the most controversial race of the year, because of some issues with pit lining.
Yes. Where do you want to start with that one?
I mean, I really don't know where to start with that, because the whole race they had been calling line enforcement a bit, I will say, liberally, because we had seen earlier on Max Chilton had been cutting, I think it was turn 5. He had been cutting turn 5 maybe 2 or 3 times in succession, and only got a warning out of that, and that's even a supposed guess at a warning. So that was honestly what I think what led to the exit from the pits for Simon Pagenaud, and possibly how he only got off with a warning there as well, and which of course made Chip Ganassi Racing as pretty much as a whole furious.
And that's why I asked you on Facebook that day if you were if you were in Chip Ganassi's or even a member of Scott Dixon's team, and you had the authority to, would you file a protest?
I had initially thought yes, because from my initial vantage point, I thought, yeah, I would file a protest, because if it was true what had been said, that in the drivers' meetings it was going to be, quote, no more warnings, that is definitely something that you directly told the drivers something, and that driver violated that. Why are you going back on these rule calls? But
that's making the rules as you go along, and that's not fair.
It's not fair to anyone.
No.
And even though we have a whole oval racing series that seems to do that every other week, IndyCar tries to be better than that. The one thing, though, that has made me change my tune was the picture that started surfacing of Dixon coming out of the pits and appearing to maybe do the same thing when he came out from his lap. And I saw that and go, well, they had not been enforcing it all race. If they did not enforce it there and they did not enforce it with Pagenaud, it looks like they had realized, possibly starting earlier in the race with the Chilton cutting, that maybe we're just not going to be able to call minor corner cuts or initially start out with warnings, because we want to be consistent at least for the race.
I think the real issue, especially with the Pagenaud incident exiting pit road, I think that the real issue is race control used the word warning. I think that had they either said, if they said there was either no penalty or you get a time penalty, or you have to let Dixon by, whatever the case may be, I think that if they didn't use the word warning, then, for example, Robin Miller wouldn't have given them an F that day in his post-race Long Beach video. Thinking back on it, the one thing I can really look back and compare this to, the first thing that came to my head was the 2003 Aaron's 499 NASCAR race at Talladega. There was Matt Kenseth. It was a 3-wide battle for the lead. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was down low. Matt Kenseth was in the middle, and I think it was Kurt Busch. I could be wrong. Was the third car up high, and they have a rule in NASCAR when you go at restrictor plate tracks like Talladega and Daytona, where you can't go below the yellow line to make a pass for the lead. And when Dale Earnhardt Jr. Passed Matt Kenseth, it was really hard to tell. It was really hard to tell whether the pass was above or below the yellow line. So NASCAR ruled it a clean pass.
Right.
So what IndyCar race control should have done, they should not have used the word warning. It's like at Fontana last summer. Great race, but there were too many warnings and too much. I'm more comfortable with what happened in Long Beach than I was in Fontana last June.
I was more okay with Graham Rahal's thing at Fontana, which I believe is what you're referencing. I was more okay with that being post-race. I was more okay with it being post-race initially, because I thought, okay, they'll decide there. When it gets to deciding a win, I can see definitely why having post-race penalties might become a bit more of an issue.
Yeah, there was so much wrong with race control that race. That race.
Yeah.
Is an F compared to Long Beach. Long Beach gets a D+, for example, and compared to what happened at Fontana. Even then, I mean, in Graham Rahal, you're not supposed to be driving like that in IndyCar. You're not allowed to block. He got away with too many blocks too many times.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve to win that race.
Right.
I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, we can have our own opinions. And then, of course, for the end of the race, Simon Pagenaud won the race over Scott Dixon, which then leads us into Alabama, when we get another finish between Rahal and Pagenaud, leading to Pagenaud now having top two'd every single race so far this season and leading the championship almost by a whole race's win points. He's leading currently by 48 points over Dixon.
And I'm really, really happy for Simon because it's a surprise, and this is the best IndyCar start for a Frenchman since Sebastian Bourdais and his 4 consecutive Champ Car title wins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really happy for Simon. This is finally the break that Go ahead.
This is the break he needs after. I hate saying this because I very much support him and love what he's been able to do with his team. He finally has a break from Sam Schmidt's team and what had happened with their being. He was doing a lot with those cars, but those cars really were not able to go over the top. Being at Penske, and especially after last year not being probably what they had envisioned, he's really running away with everything and doing fantastically.
Absolutely. At the beginning of the season, you'd think at the beginning of the season, and of course we're only four rounds in, but you'd think that it was going to once again come down to Juan Montoya and Scott Dixon in a Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg type of rivalry. Of course, they're not teammates, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But with Simon surprising everybody with this hot streak that he's on, I think it's fantastic. I'm really excited. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think it's fantastic, too, because we have a driver who's doing so well. The only thing I wish is that maybe he had more of a foil this series. The closest we have is Dixon, who swapped 1-2s with him at Phoenix and Long Beach. But, yeah, it's just my desire is I hope there's another car that starts getting more aggressive, gets more aggressive against him and provides more of a consistent foil.
True, and I think towards as the season progresses, I think we'll once again be on that path to getting the title fight at Sonoma that everybody prays for at the end of the season, where you have more than two drivers going at it. Well, don't get me wrong, having two drivers go down to the wire at the end of the season is fantastic, but don't forget either that if you add more to the mix, it just adds that excitement to the fans to see who takes home the Astor Cup in Sonoma.
Oh, absolutely. And the one last thing I wanted to cover very shortly, because I think we're going a bit over on projected time, is the Graham Rahal incident where he got slightly into the back of Jack Hawksworth and ruined his chance at a race victory, and which would have been possibly would have been the tonic that a lot of Honda teams needed to go over the top and start getting more aggressive.
And he had 8 seconds of push to pass. What happened?
He took that just a bit too fast, kept behind Hawksworth a bit too much. It's his decision. He's the one who's actually driving and is currently 6th in the point standing, so maybe he knows a bit more than us. But we look
go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just looking at it as it might have been a lapse of judgment. It might have been just initially thinking, I can go for this and make it. It just didn't work out for him, and
it's like I was telling you. He forgot he was driving an Indycar, not a stock car.
Yeah,
but like I said, he had 8 seconds to push to pass. What if I were him? It would have been a Hail Mary pass. But what he should have done, since Hawksworth was a lap down, he should have let Pagenaud go by, sneak behind Pagenaud, pass Hawksworth, and then go after him for the win, because he had all that push to passes left.
It does make sense. It does make sense for us to say it now, but then again, this is still IndyCar, and the cars at times can be rather tough to get around other cars.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. And turns like Barber can really make or break in those scenarios. But like I said, I mean, it's something that a driver can really study, can really look back on and wonder, and really set up for the future.
Oh, definitely. So we have done most of our discussion. We have done all of the discussion we had really hoped to cover for the previous 4 races. And one of the big things we had wanted to talk about now was our main topic for the week, which you had brought to my attention, Thomas. The business differences between IndyCar and NASCAR, and how you think IndyCar could maybe help itself going forward, looking at NASCAR's business decisions. I personally don't necessarily agree with that, but I wanted to hear your side of the argument on this.
Absolutely, and like I was saying earlier about a good example of this that IndyCar can really learn from NASCAR is the green, white, checkered finishes. Because when you look at moments like Phoenix, you really, and the debris at the end of the race, it really robbed the fans. It really robbed the fans of getting that green flag finish. And Sunday's another example of it. There was debris. I don't know. I can't tell you what part of the track it was where that big debris was. Just like Phoenix, and cars were driving around it. And I kept saying to myself, race control, don't throw that yellow. Don't throw that yellow, because had they thrown the yellow in a caution-free event like that,
yeah,
I would have lost it,
Which I can... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, please continue.
No, you finish your point. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's okay. Like I was just getting at, like, it's moments like that where you can really not only adapt with the times, but really bring fans and really say that you care about them. Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, it's frustrating to the driver sometimes to see. You would say you were leading at the scheduled advertised distance, but I mean, yeah, you get 4 quarters in. You're advertised to play 4 quarters of basketball, 3 periods of hockey, and then it's a tie game, and then it comes to a tie game, and you still need to determine a winner. I mean,
right?
You wouldn't. It's like you don't end the game. You don't end the game under a timeout, do you?
Right.
I mean, yeah. And
I can understand that. And there is a reason that most sports leagues don't have ties anymore, like Premier League soccer and hockey do. But yeah, sports have been forced in their past to change what they have done to make the show better and to make it better for a common fan, because that's kind of what sports are anymore. They're more of a business than anything else. I personally don't necessarily have a lot of method to disagree with you on a green-white checker, because I do think Indy in some ways could benefit from a finishing system like that.
Absolutely.
They would either need to majorly upgrade their race control facilities, or, well, not even that, because there are a lot of things that even with a great race control that you can't really plan for. So it's something that I think might work well. I would advise, if they would do anything like that, not to go too far in NASCAR's direction with some.
Well, and I'm not saying they need to be NASCAR. I'm just saying, like, there are basic baby steps. We'll call them baby steps for right now. Like adding green-white checkers can really benefit for them as a way to help bring the fans in.
And one of the things I would say is that I've seen a lot of green-white checker systems be implemented in a way I think are not very good, particularly ARCA's implementation of green-white checkered, where until that lap is finished, that lap is still available for under caution racing. So like they don't...
Yeah.
Because I've seen them do quote-unquote green-white checkers, but start green flagging with 1 lap to go. And even on a track like Talladega, where, as much as you know, because I can obviously tell you watch NASCAR as well, you need to speed up to get good racing in that last few laps, and there's no way you can speed up enough, especially in an ARCA series car, to get it. So if IndyCar were to do something, they would definitely have to learn from mistakes made, and that's maybe a position where I'm a bit nervous about IndyCar putting it forth.
And they realized their mistake. A good example of this would be they tried double file restarts. It was in Baltimore, I believe, where they tried double file restarts, and then Scott Dixon and Will Power, they were battling for the championship, I think. Yeah, I believe, and they crashed into one another, and Will Power was saying NASCAR's got it right with their restarts. We need to stop doing double file restarts. And like double file restarts are great for ovals, but road and street circuits, I don't think so. Getting back to overdrive, like what NASCAR's doing this, what NASCAR done this year, they changed it to where you get the green flag, and once you pass there's a line, I think it's in between turns 3 and 4, that once you pass that the restart line. Once you pass the restart line after overdrive begins, right, then next flag, whether it be caution flag, white flag, checker flag, etc., would end the race. Whether it be under green or under yellow.
I've seen them do that. Personally, I would move that line back a little bit, because as much as I do think the green-white checkered system might work a bit better, I do think the way NASCAR has its overtime system has been modified in a way almost to give it unlimited restarts, because of how far they have that line. It is about 95% of all, if you're going to have an incident before a finish, it will happen before that, which I suppose brings up my other issue with having a green-white checker systems is that a lot of it seems to maybe have been created drama for the sake of adding crashes because, let's be honest, coming out of a yellow, there is the old saying, yellows breed yellows.
Exactly, but I wouldn't say for crash's sake. I would say more for the sake of building that drama and intensity that really gives the sport what it's all about in terms of passion and drama that you not only see on the drivers, but it makes you're like go moments like that. You know what I mean?
I can understand that, but as well, we had been seeing plenty of those, there were still plenty of memorable finishes even IndyCar has had, even without the green-white checker system. I know we had talked about it and maybe maligned it a small bit earlier, but the Fontana race, even with the Ryan Briscoe...
Lord, yeah.
Even with the Ryan Briscoe crash, I still felt satisfied at the end of that race. Personally.
Well, even then, it got like... Looking back at the Fontana 500-mile race and even the Pocono 500-mile race, the Pocono Justin Wilson crash, just that was when Justin Wilson died. Makes sense. That made all the sense in the world. Yeah, and the race, that's fine.
Right.
But with Fontana, they could have red flagged it because only less than 5,000 people were there, but nonetheless, right. I mean, you still had viewers at home to really.
True, but I think the way that they would have started the race, even red flagging it would not have been enough because only 4 laps, that's not enough.
Well, even the 2014 Indy 500 when they red flagged the race with 6 to go,
yeah. I mean, as long as I think you're above 5 laps, that's definitely a good idea to do because you can get a couple more laps in there.
Yeah, because that's the thing you really need to. The last thing you want to do
is end a race under yellow.
Well, not necessarily that. I'm talking about you don't want to make your fan base mad because I remember I was watching that race with my dad. I was watching the Fontana race last year with my dad, and he was like, and Lee Diffie said, and Graham Rahal wins the race, and my dad's like, did they give it to him? Because he was shocked. He was in complete shock because he primarily watches NASCAR,
right?
But he was just in utter shock that they didn't not just for the sake of the race, but for the sake of the fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can understand that in a way.
Yeah, because that's the last thing you don't want to make your fan base mad or alienate them. You know, you don't want the fans to say, well, race control, they don't care. They obviously don't care about us.
Correct. Yeah, you definitely want to have a feel that race control wants the race to go ahead well. But as a way, you want to do this in a way without making the racing feel artificial or...
Right. Yeah. I mean, you just wanted to... I'm trying to think of good terminology here.
And the reason I said artificial is because sometimes with the NASCAR green-white checkered system, I almost feel like that is an issue. That is a continuous issue that they're trying to do it to make the race differently than it might happen naturally.
As long as if you throw that yellow in order to ensure overdrive, like as long as you show the fans at home or the fans in the stands on let's call it the Titantron, on the Titantron at the race itself, like what the caution's for, what the debris on the track is for, as long as you show them this is the reason of the caution, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I can see where you go with that. I don't know. I just still have a hard time. I still have my personal issues of reticence with it. I don't. And I bet a lot of other IndyCar fans might agree with me because a lot of them I know have been coming over to IndyCar in recent years because of how they feel NASCAR might be letting them down in certain instances in that respect. Especially
with the formation of the race team alliance.
That's something I'm going to try to not get into because that could be a whole podcast upon itself.
Oh, absolutely. You know, if we a whole podcast on itself.
Yeah.
I look at this as when my dad said this reminds me of, this is just like when the owners wanted wanted too much say with what happened to CART.
Yeah. So we have a small bit of time. Any other idea you had that you wanted to briefly touch on, and maybe I can provide my feedback on with business decisions and the way they run the races, or was that pretty much your main idea?
Well, talking about business to business decisions. Another one thing. Let me end it with this, and we can go on all night if we wanted to. Discussing business to discussing the whole the difference between the two leagues. But the one thing that I would do, and that's in terms of money.
Oh, prize money.
Go ahead.
Do you mean prize money and that sort of thing?
Well, there's that, but I'm talking about bringing more opportunity to IndyCar. If anything, IndyCar needs, especially with the race team alliance and what's happening with all the less and less number of cars that are now coming to make the show for NASCAR races. What I make a proposal, a Dallara DW12.
Yeah.
Should not, and I repeat, should not cost more than a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series stock car. I don't think it's right.
They've already made runs at doing that, because I believe they have a set of steady costs, I think, already, because a Dallara chassis is $350,000 max price. An aero kit is $70,000 max price, and that was actually one of the limiting factors when this had been decided from having multiple chassis makers, was that with the prices that IndyCar was wanting, they would have to have exclusivity, because otherwise the chassis makers themselves couldn't really make money off of it.
And exclusivity makes all the sense in the world. Don't get me wrong. I think that's great, but I think that if you want to bring in terms of the sake of opportunity and let alone popularity, bringing more names into the series, I mean, you gotta slash the price on that thing, and of course this is talking about specifically the chassis itself, not the engine, whatever, all the other bells and whistles that go with it. That's a whole nother separate entity. But the car itself, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because the chassis themselves, they had already made a huge effort with what I had mentioned to keep those costs down, and personally, I thought they did a very good effort at it, because one chassis is going to last you the whole year. The aero kit on top of it is what's going to have to be changed maybe a few times. But even so, that's your car for the whole year. It's not like in NASCAR where you have different cars for different kinds of tracks. That is your car for the whole year for $350,000.
Yeah, when you put it that way, but I just don't think. I mean, if you look back to certain races where say you do crash, where you do end up crashing that thing, say whether it be
right
on an oval or a road course, and you do need a brand new car. But not only that, I mean, you see all the big teams like Penske, Ganassi, Andretti. But what about new teams that want to make their
run at it?
Their run at it, I mean, and they don't have Penske money or Verizon money to where they could be able to do that. That would think of the little guys and say, for their sake, like that's one of the reasons why Tony George created the Indy Racing League, to cut costs and give more drivers more opportunity. And I think, and giving them by doing so, that creates more of an opportunity for American open wheel racing to really get their name on the map,
But in a way, I would say there's a point in which you can go too heavy-handed in that, and in that way, IndyCar, I think, is already ahead of NASCAR, because as I had mentioned, with NASCAR, you need several different cars to run the whole series. You have to buy a $50,000 engine for every single race. I think it is currently, for a Cup engine, it's $50,000, and you replace that every single race, and you don't keep it.
Right.
So in a way, and it's compared to, I think the current lease maximum for IndyCar is about $700,000 for a year. So even in comparison to that, IndyCar engines are less expensive per race. The chassis costs are definitely, when you spread it out over the cost of season, having one, maybe two cars, if what you say like that, you happen to wreck and need a whole new chassis, which hasn't seemed to happen often. That's still massively less money than what it would be to run a season in Cup.
Yeah, so when you look at it from that perspective, those are pretty good points.
And one of the things that I think brings my point home about the chassis being durable and you really only needing one for the year, and actually one for even less than that. There's a chassis, I don't know exactly whose it is, but it's an Andretti chassis that's going up for auction right now. I think it's Ryan Hunter. It was Ryan Hunter Ray's chassis when he won the 500 in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
That is going up for auction right now. They started using it in 2012, and it will... they are selling
the year he won the championship.
The year he won the championship in 2012 and won the 500 with. You are projected to get that at the end of its life in 2017. That car will have been used for about 6 or 7 years, and that's one chassis that has been used since the start of this chassis lifespan, and will be used until the end of the chassis' usefulness if 2018 is the projected year that we get a new car design for Indy. Which is one of the reasons that I think we're almost good as we are with it, because we have these cars that last a long time. They don't need to be replaced. The engines are still cheaper per race. I mean, I don't know of much more of what can be done.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's how I looked at it and thought, well, I don't know much more what can be done. So
yeah, you can't see me waving the white flag. So
yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
And now that we've driven that topic into the ground, and we don't want to keep you guys for too long listening to us, because I know you're probably going to get exhausted of listening to our voices. Let's start looking at our month of May preview, because we have the Indy GP and the Indy 500 coming up.
The month of May has arrived,
and it's
flowers
such a
blooming. Jim Neighbors singing. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Well, Straight No Chaser now singing.
Yeah, it's actually who is it now this year?
I thought it was Straight No Chaser.
No, it was last year, and then they changed it. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Okay. Well, while he's looking that up, I can start bringing up points to talk about. Definitely one of the ones is for the Indy 500. We will have at the very least 34 cars, and maybe if Grace Autosport somehow manages to get together everything, because it's been a bit unclear as to what they've been able to put together, potentially 35 cars for this Indianapolis 500 qualifying, which is the most it's been in a couple of years. Definitely the most it's been since the DW12 has been introduced, which is a great sign for the future. Because
that's fantastic.
Yeah, because every single car that has run a race, plus about, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Plus 13 other cars are going to be running 13 or 14 other cars are going to be running the Indianapolis 500, which is, I think, perfect. We're going to be getting a ton of entrants, and we're going to be having, obviously, a ton of racing. So that's definitely one good point to look forward to this 500. Another thing that has been already through the news cycle, but is something worthy to talk about, is the wing flaps and the dome skids that are going to be on the underside. I know Marco Andretti has made his opinion quite known about how he thinks that has been. I wondered, is it really kind of an overreaction? Because we have there are new parts of every racing series that drivers tend to like or not like. Is this an overreaction in your opinion, Thomas, or is this something that really needs to be concerned about?
Well, it's a really,
I am on the same level of.
It's really up in the air when you think about it. You know, Marco said, and I quote, "Put the dome skid on the car, makes it safer in spin, yes, but everyone ignores the fact that we have to raise the ride heights 10 flats, which makes the car undrivable, therefore unsafe."
Right. And
he turned his fastest lap of 2:23 before halting.
Right.
Before halting the car at the last Indy test on the 7th.
And it had been planned for a long time that the turbo boost was going to go up and the cars made faster enough to hopefully break the 240 mile an hour at barrier at Indianapolis. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, but that's another topic for another day. I really think if that's something that is imperative.
Yes.
Personally,
no, please go ahead.
I was just saying, I think this is a bit of an overreaction. There's new formulas every year, especially coming into 2012. I bet there was a lot of concern with how the way the DW12 had been driving compared to the IRO5, which was the previous chassis used from 2005 to 2011.
Yes.
I think it's the way that IndyCar has gone. This is something that is not too crazy, and I think it's good that I think they're definitely trying to help correct from what had happened last year, because there were a lot of incidents that happened last year.
Oh man, just as long as we don't, I was scared to death. That something was going to happen.
I was scared to death twice or three times, like with Ed Carpenter, obviously with Ed Carpenter, definitely with James Hinchcliffe. We saw how that panned out, that he didn't end up driving for the rest of the season. And then there was one in the race. Was it Saavedra that had his own incident in the race that got everyone nervous as well?
I think it was it Townsend, or was that?
No, it wasn't Townsend Bell. I remember specifically it wasn't Townsend.
Okay, because I remember somebody rode in the back of an ambulance during the race. I was just really scared. That entire month. That got me thinking. Just got me thinking somebody's gonna die.
Yeah,
but thank the Lord that did not happen.
Definitely. And so as we talked about that, and then the other thing we can touch on for a brief minute is the fact that it looks like in the Indy 500 I was surprised to hear it had not been, because it had always looked full to me, but it looks like we are already going to be at a potential sellout for the race. Full 200.
That is fantastic.
For all 256,000 seats sold for the race. That is
fantastic
news
for the Speedway and for the city of Indianapolis.
Right. That's crazy to think that how huge that racetrack gets as a city. I'm thankfully going to be there this year for my first Indianapolis 500. I cannot wait to see the race and see how it goes.
You're gonna be there for the entire week leading up to it, or are you just gonna be for the 500 and that's it?
Sadly, I'm not going to be there for the whole week leading up. I'm going to be getting there on Wednesday. I'm going to be there for the for the Indy Lights practice for the Freedom 100, which I'm extremely excited to see. And
wonderful.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm going to try going in on Champions Day. Hopefully that ends up being a fun thing. I'll get to meet some drivers, and then obviously race day. Hopefully go there. And then
gotcha.
And then final things to mention: favorites for the Indy GP. Obviously, who has won it the last 2 years? Simon Pagenaud. Who's currently on a hot streak? Simon Pagenaud. Is there really going to be much discussion as to who's the favorite for this Indianapolis Grand Prix this year?
I think that Will Power. He won last year. Simon Pagenaud is really on a hot streak, and like I said earlier, it got me. It really.
Oh, Will Power did win last year. I apologize for that. I thought Pagenaud won.
No, it's all good. He won. Simon Pagenaud has a chance with his hot streak. He has a chance to become the first repeat winner of the Grand Prix, and then, but the beginning of the year made me. Like I said earlier, it had me thinking this could really be the chance for Juan Montoya to rightfully regain the championship.
Yeah.
To rightfully regain the championship, but we could have the Penske posse could really be dominant if Will Power ends up getting into victory lane, which I know and I'm confident that he will. This could be the most dominant year Penske's had.
Well, it's already looking like it's going to be a very dominant year for Penske. I mean, they hold 1, 3, and 4 in the driver's title right now, with the only fly in their ointment currently being Dixon in second. But yeah, they hold first with Pagenaud, third with Montoya, fourth with Castroneves, and seventh with Will Power, and seventh with him only having competed in 3 of the 4 races.
It's 1994 all over again.
Yeah. And hopefully,
it's fantastic.
Hopefully we don't start hearing things about a brand new Mercedes-Benz engine that's going to be running the race.
That would be a cool story. I actually gave a presentation trying to get when I was a Full Sail, I made a sports events presentation trying to persuade Mercedes to come back to the IndyCar series, but that's a whole nother topic. It's Josh Kaufman that'll be singing Back Home Again in Indiana this year.
Oh yeah. And then favorites for the 500. I mean, it's hard to go against Juan Pablo Montoya. I'd personally say it's hard to go against Juan Pablo Montoya. He's been strong. He's generally extremely strong at Indianapolis. I don't necessarily have an argument against because I know he's been weaker, but it is Indianapolis. Maybe Elio joining the greats with getting his 4th win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. He's driving unless I'm mistaken, I believe he's driving the Pennzoil car again this year.
Yeah, he is driving the Yellow Submarine again. And
that's going to be fantastic.
That will be fantastic. And then with Pagano bringing Menards back as a sponsor to Indianapolis, that's also going to be fun.
That gave me chills when I saw that the Menards colors back on an open wheel car. That was such a beautiful sight to see, and I'm really excited.
Yeah.
That we're going to be seeing that once again at the Brickyard.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. We'll have a more detailed look over of the Indianapolis 500 after the Indy Grand Prix, and also on the day before the Indianapolis 500, where I will at least be reporting live from Indianapolis, Indiana.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to doing that with you.
I definitely look forward to doing that as well. That was our first episode of this show. We hope you all enjoyed it, and we hope, especially if we enjoy doing this and you enjoy watching it, we'll be here with you for races and hopefully years to come. So I was glad. I thought this first episode went really well. Do you think so too, Thomas?
I thought it went really well. I think that it was a first episode. That's why we have pilots.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to us, and we can't wait to do this again.
Yes, I would like to say as always, but then again, we've never done it before. So as always, starting of now, we will see you next time. Hopefully on the Wednesday after the next race. We'll be recording Monday or Tuesday, hopefully getting it out on Wednesday. Like this should be out. If it ends up being Thursday, that was editing. Sorry.
And we apologize.
Yeah. See you guys next time.